Hello, friends. My name is Steve, and we're here again on Friday evening for those of us here in the, in the States, anyway, for the Friday conversation. Joined with some friends. Michael, do you want to kick us off with an introduction? Tell us about yourself.
Sure. My name's Michael Clark. You can call me Mike if you like. And I wrote the Patience of a Dead Man trilogy. I've got another one coming out in April. It's called Hell on High from Bridges Gate Press. And I'm taking life one day at a time, I suppose.
And Wendy.
Hi, I'm Wendy Darymple, and I write Florida Gothic horror. I actually have a Florida Gothic horror novella called Roser Park that's coming out tomorrow, and I have two others. White Ibis is a shorter novella, and then They Come from the Water is also. They're all tied together. They're standalone, but they all have similar themes.
Awesome. And Laurel.
I'm Laurel Hightower. I write horror and have a small child. You may know me as Tiny's mom. And much other than that, I just drink bourbon and sometimes injure myself.
I want to ask you about that here in a minute. And Wendy, tell us about Roser Park. What can we expect from it?
Yeah, it's a sort of a modern Gothic story, and it's set in nearby Roser Park. I live in Tampa Bay, Florida, and there's a neighborhood called Roser Park that this story is based off of. And it centers a woman who's just been divorced, and she's got a dog sitting job that is kind of too good to be true. And ghosty stuff happens, and real life scary stuff happens, and it's just kind of a good representation, I think, of the things that I like to look for in books.
And it's a lot of fun. It's really good. It's a lot of fun to read.
And Laurel was very kind to read it for me and do a blurb for me, and I was very grateful for that.
No, it's really, really good. And also, I want to pick up your. I don't mean to derail you, but you have a Halloween romance.
I do. I'm also a romance author, and so I was a little crazy, and I had a romance release today, and I have a horror release tomorrow. And so it's called My Halloween Romance, and that came out today. And that one's actually based in Fort Myers, Florida, where the hurricane just happened. Based on a lot of places I grew up in, and just it's just a fun Halloween story.
You have two books coming out at the same time?
One today and one tomorrow. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, Mike, there's a whole day between. Don't be ridiculous.
That's just how I do it. You know how it is when you're self-published.
Going on like 2 years or whatever. So. And then Laurel, I don't know how you blurb everything, and you're on all these podcasts. I don't know how do you write? I mean, where do you find the time?
It's been a lot easier since I went part-time. In May of 2021, like right before we were going to go back to the office, I was kind of like, so this whole being in the office 8 hours thing, is that negotiable? And it turns out it was. So I work from 1 to 6 now. And that means I get to hang out with my son until about 10. I drop him off at daycare. And then depending on what else I've got going on, I have about 30 to 90 minutes a day for writing. So you would think I'd actually get more done given that this
30 minutes. It takes me like 30 minutes to like think about, like to get in that mindset. I don't know.
Well, ask my husband. I'm always thinking about something else. So I do that head writing when he's telling me important things, like where the wills are kept or, that kind of thing. So I'll be host if anything happens, but I know what I'm going to write my next chapter, dang it.
Nice.
So Wendy, is it hard to switch back and forth between genres like romance and horror, or is it pretty seamless for you?
It's for me. I feel like it's easy because it might not seem like obvious on the surface, but horror and romance, I feel, are very connected. Like they're the opposite sides of the coin. You deal with a lot of the same emotions in your writing, a lot of the same, fluttering heartbeats, a lot of the same things that are, I feel, interconnected. And for me, it's good too, because it helps me balance out. Like if I've written something very intense, I can go and write something super cute and ridiculous. And it helps me to balance out. I feel like I'm always fresh with what I'm writing that way.
How many words do you write a day? Oh, sorry, Laura.
Well, I'm also mostly full time writing at home. I also do freelance copywriting and other stuff like that. And so I'm fortunate enough to be able to devote most of my time to doing this. So if I can write 2,000 words a day, that's a good day usually.
That's a
Yeah.
really good day. It's a
Mhm.
great day. And I really agree about the horror and the romance really going hand in hand. I don't necessarily think that a romance needs to be shoehorned into every single story ever, but I like it when it's there.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like it's one of those things that like ups the stakes a lot, and kind of just gives, because I think a lot of readers enjoy like a romance element of it. So
Mhm.
Yeah. And I think I'm finding that there are so many people that read in more than one genre. Like they don't just read one genre. So a lot of people are like, they read both things from me and they enjoy both things from me. And so as long as I see that that's happening, I'm going to keep offering it, I guess. Plus, I don't have the energy to do a pen name. It's just, this is me. This is what I do. Here it is.
Do you
What's
go
the
through
benefit?
like
Oh,
pub presses and stuff, or do you just self-publish or?
Yeah, a few different things. So I have a contract with Scribd.com. I don't know if you're familiar with Scribd. They're an online library that you can subscribe to, and they have mostly ebooks and audiobooks. And so I'll be contracted by them to write either a horror or a romance novella, and then they'll produce the audiobook, and then I'll have the rights to publish paperback. And then a year later, I get my rights reverted back to me to publish ebook. And so that's how that works with a lot of my stuff. I also have some short stories and other presses. I have an upcoming romance with the Wild Rose Press that's coming out. And then I have another one that I have that hasn't been announced yet, coming out with another small press, a horror novella coming up soon. And then I do a lot of other, like Roser Park is completely self-published by me. White Ibis is completely self-published by me. So I'm all over the map. I like to just experiment and work with different people.
Hmm.
wow. What's the benefit of using a pen name?
I think perhaps for like people that want to have more, well, for one thing, privacy is the issue with for a lot of people. And then if you have different genres that you write in, I think a lot of times, especially with self-published, it's easier for the algorithm to pick up. If you like this, then you're going to be, they shoehorn you into this, this, and this. And so that's why typically people have one pen name for each genre they write. But I can't figure out the algorithm anyway, so I'm just not even going to try.
Yeah, I feel the same way. Like self-publishing and stuff is so like every time I've done 3 books, and then finally this next one is going to be through a press, and I don't think I'm going to go back to self-publishing. It's just so much to it. It's so much work, and there's like a checklist that I went through the other day, and I was like, oh my God, I remember that, and a lot of it costs money too, like to promote it or whatever. So I don't know, like it's just a lot of work to get it all out there, and you need to continue to do it too, because like the book launch lasts for, you know, 90 days if you're lucky, and then it kind of like, goes down after that. But I don't know, to keep it going over time, I have no experience with it. I don't think I have the patience to become a master at Amazon ads or something like that.
Yeah, neither.
Hmm.
there's a lot to it. And Mike, you probably have you been listening to Bleeding Page podcast?
Yeah, I like that a
I
lot.
hate to keep I hate to pump anything by Jason Brand. Just kidding.
Right.
But
Me too. I don't like him either.
I love Jason, but
So do I.
but uh, but it's really been interesting. And I don't self-publish in large part because of the work that you guys are talking about. Like it's like, I have buddies who self-publish and they're like, you're giving away such a huge chunk of your control and your money. And I'm like, I know, but I know myself. I could say
Yeah.
like, yes, I'll do these things and I will half-ass it all to hell and back.
Yeah.
And it
And if
just
you don't
won't.
kick and scream, they don't see you. It's all up to
Yeah.
you. And I don't know. It's sorry to cut you off, but
No,
yeah.
no, you didn't. You're good, but it was very eye opening to me. The folks that they have on there and the information that they provide with respect to. I love that they ask those questions at the end about what's the most effective thing you've done for marketing and what's the thing that you would
Hmm.
tell people to never do. And that's just, I feel like again, I feel like anybody could kind of benefit from it. In particular, if you go back and forth, or if you're, considering doing that sort of thing, it's very eye opening because, I mean, self publishing is not the easy route. That is the hard route. That is the
Yeah.
seriously hard route.
And it's usually through Amazon too. So like I tried to get a BookBub, which I still don't really fathom what, like, people say that that's a lot of those final questions of the bleeding page. Like somebody said one of the best things was getting a BookBub. It's like you pay, I don't know, $400 or something, and then you get it all back. It's like great exposure. But I don't know, just to, like, lately on Twitter too, like we've been seeing a bunch of folks that are getting, like you, have your books in Barnes and Noble, lots of them. Eric
That's
LaRocca,
crazy.
I mean, it's, it's cool. I mean, but I would never, being self-published on Amazon, be in a Barnes and Noble,
Did you I'm just curious because I don't really know, but I've noticed that, well, I guess because I was thinking it was Brianna Morgan who maybe moved all her stuff over to Ingram and was like immediately chance down at the Barnes and Noble in Bowling Green, who, by the way, I think is single-handedly responsible for like a renaissance of horror in bookstores. That's what it feels like. But he was able to get it like immediately. So it might be worth, I'm giving people self-pub advice and I don't know anything about what I'm talking about. So I'm going to be quiet.
Well, you're
I'm definitely in the process of trying to purchase ISBNs, get on Ingram, and that costs a lot of money. So I'm kind of in the savings stage of doing that, and then I can think. But then beyond that, you need to be able to encourage booksellers to carry your book, and so it's just marketing and who and who you get to talk to. But yeah,
some of these small presses are better than others at getting the books in the bookstores, like, I don't know, like some you see in the bookstores and some you don't. I'm just kind of like noticing all this recently, so it's interesting.
It is, and I'll be interested, Mike, in your experience with it on the, as far as like, because I would expect to see yours, the new one through Bridget's Gate. I would imagine. I mean, they're set up to be distributed in bookstores, aren't they?
Well, I've had like a Zoom meeting with them, and I thought it was great. I mean, I was impressed. Like, Heather is like a motivated person, and like, she didn't have to sell me on anything, and she did, and I was like, wow, she's got ambition. And I don't know if you've seen, but they're signing a bunch of people. So I was like happy to be involved with them. I left that Zoom meeting feeling pretty good. But they're busy, I haven't had much exposure with them, so I don't know anything about like their distribution or anything like that. So, we'll see, but so far so good.
There's so many, and this is one of the things, Steve, like, seriously, like, part of the reason I love what you do is because I feel like in prior eras, writers weren't always able to have these conversations with each other, because it's like, I mean, how the hell do we know what's up if we're not like, so what was your experience with this? Like, how, like, I just feel like all this is like super helpful. I feel like I learned so much with it.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and I watched a couple of your shows, like some of the recent ones, to get ready for this, and I see you sitting back, like, not saying anything. I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna have to, be a big part of this thing, and I don't even know what we're talking about. So, but and then the guys were talking about grimdark and stuff. I had to look up grimdark, and one guy wrote 500,000 words, and I was like, oh my God,
dear Lord, that's a lot of words.
500,000 words.
Oh, you know what? It just occurred to me, though, I've probably done that because Silent Key in its first iteration was like 197,000 words. Like,
I saw you cut 80,000 words out, right? Didn't you say
that? Oh, well, more than that, because now it's like from the very beginning, the very first draft of it, it's down to 88. So I cut over 100,000 words on it. And
my goal is to write 80 for a novel. Like, I'd love to. Like, I like a nice book, and I don't know if I'm a novella guy but I aim for 80, and you cut 80. So I was like, damn.
Yeah, well, I was kind of giving myself way too much rein here. And okay, this is where the romance comes into it too. A big part of Silent Key is like I created this couple, And like I just fell in love with them and with their love. So like there was this just enormous unnecessary stretch of like, and I even like I had one session where it literally said at the beginning, nothing much happened, and then 50 fucking pages. And I was like, wow, I even said it in the manuscript, and then I just went ahead and did that. So editors are your friend.
Well, that's a talent though, to be able to, I mean, at least you're getting it all out and they can choose what they want to see, right? That's
And
the
that's
character better than anybody.
Yeah, and I will say one of these things. So Ryan Lewis, who is I don't have a literary agent anymore, but my media agent is Ryan Lewis, has been a Black Yarn, and he's absolutely amazing, and he really has a gift for like. He asked me what I loved the most that I was working with, and I was like, well, it's this, and so he took a look at it, and at that point, I think it was like close to 130,000 words, and he was able to do what no one else up to that point had been able to do. He was able to say like, this is where the halfway point should be. So you need, this is where your impetus is. And he told me like, you need to, one of the really helpful things was he's like, you need to make a list of all these strings that you've got, like all these plot points, and then you need to see what you can cut. And it was really, really helpful. I rewrote the whole thing from the ground up. But with that, it's just a lot tighter.
He's a movie producer, right? Or like
he is, yeah. I don't know. It's one of those things you never know. Like you get emails every so often from people who seem really excited, and then you hear nothing else, and all those fun things.
Paul Tremblay like went through a lot before he got what he got, right? Like, didn't he have Robert Downey Jr.'s company like interested? And then I heard something about Brian Keene, like he's had what's the famous zombie novel? He's going to see this.
The Rising.
Yeah. It's been optioned 6 times.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's like, wow, this is what, I'm getting into, and I even bought a book. It's called something like Hollywood versus the Author, because that's my goal. I'd love to have a movie made out of my stuff, but it's so hard. It's so difficult. And there are like the woman that wrote The Woman in Black. I can't think of her name. She's bankrupt.
Really?
Yeah. Like she didn't get a lot of money out of that because Hollywood accounting, they will fix it so there's no profit.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm getting off on a tangent here, but
no, I think that's just one of those interesting things too. I don't know if you all subscribe to Max Booth's Ghoulish Times newsletter, but it's interesting because he, especially in his most recent one, he really went into some detail about how the options work and how the amount is calculated and what that means with respect to what you would get if it's actually made. And I just think all of that is really interesting, but it's, it's just something this is probably one of these things I shouldn't say, but it's like, who else was deeply annoyed to see the trailer for Paul Tremblay's book and not even have him referenced?
Yeah.
Like my blood boiled. And
it's the same story. And it says written by M. Night Shyamalan.
Which is bullshit. Like he adapted it. And later when he was like, oh yeah, also by the way, this was it was inspired by a book. I was like, bitch, it's inspired by if you saw like a cool picture and you wrote a story about it. You took existing IP.
Yeah.
I'm really sorry. I'd still like to work with you, Mr. Shyamalan.
He made the title worse.
They did make the title worse.
Yeah. I mean, but he can still make my movie if he wants to.
That's what I'm saying. I'm like, we can still be friends. It's okay.
Shame on you, but I'll give you my phone number.
I will help you with your conscience.
Change the name of my book.
Do you all think that you write cinematically subconsciously? Because I've seen some talk about how some readers think that books are written today with the intent of becoming films, and that's not what I do as an author. I write to write a book, but also I've grown up with nothing but cinema and media in my face, and so I wonder if I read a good book, I immediately want to see it made into a good movie if it's something I really enjoy, and I wonder if that's something that's in contemporary writers, just like background psyche of just like writing cinematically.
Go ahead, Laura. Do you have an answer? I do, but I'll wait.
Well, I mean, I think I'm in the same boat, Wendy. Like I don't generally consciously do so. I will say that I got asked by somebody that I spoke to in kind of in that field, in that realm, and they were like, "Hey, this is the kind of tone of thing that I'm looking for." And this would be like, not necessarily the beats of it, but like the mood of it and things like that. And so that sometimes when I'm considering what to work on next, I take that into consideration, but usually gets pushed to the back burner because what usually happens is like, I have this idea. This is the thing I want to work on right now, and then like I go, and then later I'm like, oh, Ryan's gonna kill me. I did it again. I just wrote I just wrote what was in my head, So what about you, Mike?
That's a good problem to have. No, I definitely like. I'm the guy that sees soon to be a major motion picture on the cover, and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna buy that now because I want to get my own impression and then compare it to the movie. Like I didn't read Jurassic Park until I saw that on the cover, and Silence of the Lambs I read in like a day and a half because I had tickets. I didn't have tickets, but I was gonna go on Friday night or whatever. So that's my favorite experience, to read a book just before the movie comes out and then to see the movie. And the only reason I didn't write a screenplay is because I didn't think anybody would read it, So I always thought I was okay with like prose or whatever. So I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna write a book, and then my model was Andy Weir, who wrote The Martian. He
Hmm.
totally got lucky, and he had like a blog or something, and he had a bunch of followers, and then all of a sudden Ridley Scott's making his movie and Matt Damon's in it and whatever. So I knew that wouldn't happen, but I'm thinking that that's what I want, that kind of thing. So I'm definitely I think of the movie first. I think actually before the book. I always read growing up, but I only read Stephen King. I tried a Dean Koontz. I didn't really like it. I'm pretty picky, and I think I don't even think I tried Clive Barker. So I don't think I'm well read, um, but I am who I am, I suppose. So compared to you guys who like, who Cthulhu is and all this stuff, and I had to look up what, uh, um, well, what's the name of the guy that did Lovecraftian? I didn't. I'm like, what's
Oh yeah.
Lovecraftian? Yeah, like, I had to look that stuff up.
Well, cosmic horror, I had no idea what
I
that
had to
was.
look that
Like,
up too. Cosmic
yeah,
horror. I'm like,
I
what is
got
that? Space?
asked on a podcast or something. I was like, tentacles. That is what it means. Like that's what I've got. I still don't think I really understand it. But on the flip side of that, Mike, as far as like the influences go and how you think of that, it's interesting because I feel like it's only been relatively recently that I have kind of started looking at film and TV as like really analyzing it in the same way that I do with books. Like I often have read something and been like, "Oh, I like this effect. I like what this elicited in me." I'm interested in trying to elicit something similar, and that kind of thing. But I never really looked at films that way. I just let it be very, very passive. Um, but there is an enormous amount to be learned from that. Because it's there are two different forms of art, there are two different forms of media, but you're still, the goal in a certain amount in writing is I don't know that you necessarily need to have jump scares, but
Yeah.
to have those very strong reactions, and yeah, I don't know, that's been something interesting. I don't think it's necessarily puts you at a disadvantage, Mike, like to look at the film side of it first. I think that's a big part of where the industry is headed.
Yeah, I just felt like maybe like I really don't have a clue as to like my pros compared to other people's. Like I don't know who I would compare myself to. Um, it's I don't know that it's up to par even, the pros part. Like some people are character driven and some are story driven and that kind of thing. And I kind of feel like the way I entered the writing world was through a story. I had an outline from beginning to end, and I think of that first before I think of um, you know, the flowery language and that kind of thing. So I don't think I'm a writer at heart, I guess. I don't know if that makes any sense.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think that there's definitely some people that appreciate more flowery or ornate language. And like for me personally, I like to write accessibly, and I like to, I mean, I love, don't get me wrong, I love 25-cent words, and I love to really play with language. But at the end of the day, I think for me, I like to write accessibly so that people can get through it fast. Like
Yeah.
I like to read fast paced. And if you are questioning what I'm writing, questioning the meaning of what I'm writing, then that's going to stop you. And so like that's my preference for the way I write, and a lot of the times the way I read too.
Mm. Yeah, there's a lot of writers like I remember Gone Girl. I couldn't get into it the way she wrote um, the flowery language of the diary entries and stuff. I don't know if you read that, but this is before I got into the horror community. Now I have a stack of books from people I know, and I'm buried in books. But I used to like pick a book a year or two books a year, and that was one that I read, and I'm like, oh man, this is so hard to engage with, kind of a thing. Just her prose was a little bit off for me, but um, yeah, I don't know. Like, I guess I'm more visual, I suppose.
Well, and I think in the same way that, yeah, Wendy, I would agree that, I mean, just from what I've read, your style is, it's very accessible. It's very like, able to like immediately get into it and immediately want to know what's happening next and be carried along with it. Um, and Mike, whether or not you're a writer at heart, I think you're certainly a storyteller at heart. So I mean, it's
Mm.
I feel like in a lot of ways your horror is that same level of accessible, because it's very like everyman, because it's like it's not some gifted, and guilty whispers in the dark totally did the gifted girl thing, but it's not that. It's somebody who is just like a normal, like everyday person, and a lot of times that is a really good way to get, to draw in readers, to not feel like they're removed several steps from it, and
Mm.
and you certainly included elements of romance in yours as well.
Mhm.
Yeah, I fumbled through that, as I fumble through my real romance. Yeah, the my story dealt with a guy that had just gone through a divorce, and I did borrow a lot of real life examples. But so yeah, there was a little bit of frustration coming out with my main character. So
Which
if
I think that's what helps with authenticity too, you
mm,
know. And that's a very human experience. There's a huge percentage of the population, of readers and everyone else who've had that experience, and so that's something that people can kind of look at, and um, you know and I never hold it. Well, I don't hold reviews against anybody, period. I just, that's a big thing with me. I'm just like, I think you should be able to say what you want. Like, if you want to go on your review and say like, this is the worst writer in the world, like she's terrible, she should never, that's fine, we can still be friends. But you know one thing is, like, I will sometimes notice, like, and it'll come from like very, very young people, and they'll be like, I just don't understand why this woman would make these decisions, why she'd be worried about this. And I'm like, and I don't want to be patronizing and say like, well, wait till you've been married for, wait till you have kids or whatever, because it's not about that. But it is like, I can recall reading certain books when I was much younger, before I, had experienced certain situations, and being like, I just don't know why anyone would give up any autonomy, and why would you do this? And this is dumb. Like, I would leave, and it's like, I'm like 40. I'm like, no, you probably wouldn't, honestly. I mean, I hope you do.
yeah, I had a criticism, and I knew it was from a young person that my main character buys a house to fix up, and then he starts dating the real estate agent, and they get something going, so he takes her out to dinner. But he's complaining about money the whole time, not during the dinner, but like that he put everything he owned into the house. And somebody wrote something like, if he's so, worried about money, why does he go out to dinner every night? I'm like, well, because, $100,000 is a lot more than $25. So,
Also, sex. I mean, I'm sorry, but
yeah, I
like,
mean, yeah, I mean, like if you got something going on with a date, you're gonna pursue that no matter if you have money or not. You're gonna put all your money into that. But yeah, I think they missed the point on he was mortgaged.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, I know what you mean about the whatever
Yeah.
generation reads it.
And I certainly hope that doesn't come off as like dismissive of it, because every reader brings their own life experience to it. And like I said, I definitely, had those moments. And there will be books that I read that I will look at decisions that a character makes and be like, yeah, even at this age, I don't think so. But it's also part of what you see is that characters, and I guess my thing is, my responsibility as the writer is to develop the character in such a way that you go along with it. So it's, if I haven't justified that, if I haven't created a backstory or a situation in which that makes sense, then that's on me. So
I find myself writing every book, and I'm on my 5th now. Like this is 4, and then I'm writing another one. They're all set in the 70s because of technology. Like I think like having a cell phone, you're kind of like, you're never alone. Like and maybe I'm phasing out that younger generation kind of a thing. They can't imagine what it was like in 1971 or whatever. I was 9 at the time or whatever. No, I was 5. But so like, yeah, I just find myself, I'm still writing, even though it has nothing to do with the other stories in that time period because of technology. Like I think in horror, if you're like those movies, Unfriended or whatever, like I laugh. I see the title and I'm laughing. I'm not going to be afraid of that. I don't know. Maybe the younger generation is, but the
Well, even
technology they're connected.
one of the things I miss about having regular televisions, the jump scare that you could get in old movies where it wasn't a matte flat screen TV. You turn it off and there's somebody behind you in the reflection, like just those little things that have changed in our technology that could have been used for a device.
Right. And the thing with the cell phone is, oh, your battery ran out. It's like so cliche, It's like you can't have your battery run out to write the scary scene. Like just don't have the cell phone. I don't know.
Cell phone gets smashed, you leave it behind.
Yeah, I mean, try to think of a new way to get rid of the technology for your scary scene, I guess. I don't know, but I don't know. I don't want to go like, oh, the battery's dead. Okay, buddy. The car won't start. I get it.
I'm kind of like, I'm this weird mix of like very half-assed and last minute and very anal retentive about preparation. So like some of the stuff I'm like, I can't believe that you would not have gotten that checked with the mechanic before going on this trip. I can't believe you didn't air up your tires. This is all ridiculous. Like, kind of
you've had to think all this through when you write. Yeah.
Yeah. Steve, so you do, I've seen you. Oh, and I'm sorry. You were getting ready to actually get a word in edgewise.
Steve, are you still here?
No, I'm not. And nobody watches to hear what I have to say. They want to see all of you, so that's why I don't say much. But no, what was your question, Laurel?
Well, I was curious because I'd listened on some of your other Friday talks, and I know you talked to. Do you do all genres, or I know the one I listened to was like fantasy. So I was curious whether you were seeing that kind of. I'm assuming that means you're a fantasy reader.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So do you see these same kind of, I don't know, like cinematic or all these same kind of things going on with that? Because what I was thinking too is like fantasy is so interesting because you can just build the world around it, but then also you have to build the whole world. So
yeah, you have to build it all in. But I think fantasy is a little different because with something with fantasy, the budget to get optioned is probably a lot more than it is for like a horror movie, because you can make a low budget horror movie and make a ton of money. So it's a different scale. It's a lot more of an investment to adapt a fantasy story than it would be a horror story. So
yeah, costumes alone.
Yeah.
Yeah. And castles.
And castles and dragons, and special effects, and
yeah.
There's always 1,000 people in it, so that's another thing. You can make a great low budget horror movie with 3 people in one location. I mean, that's the movie.
During a pandemic, Max Booth.
Yeah, with an iPhone.
I know. It's ridiculous.
Unfriended.
blocked.
some I have to say some of those movies, like some of them are actually pretty good. There was one that I watched not long ago, See Me or See For Me, which was like about an app.
Mhm.
And that was actually pretty good.
Good.
Most of the
Most of
time
the time
when I see
when
these
I
things, it strikes me as like
like
these very out of
out
touch,
of
like
touch, like
execs being like,
exactly like
what are
what
the kids doing today? What's an app? Let's make a movie about, because I didn't even bother watching. Maybe it was good, but there was like this movie that came out called That Awkward Moment, but it came out like 2 years after that was a thing. And I'm like, guys, this kind of cultural stuff moves too fast for you to be
Yeah.
putting it through these major studios. Like by the time you do it, no one says that anymore. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
Like she's not that into you, or is it whatever? He's not that into you. That movie, and they talk about, you have to cancel your date on so many.
Oh, we lost him.
He was so annoyed about the apps, he just
Yeah.
bounced right
Oh,
out.
Oh,
did
he's
I
back.
bounce out?
Yeah.
That's where the
Oh,
horror movie starts.
See,
uh-oh.
you've been
Yeah,
unfriended.
right.
No, I was,
Everybody
all
got
of the,
rearranged on my screen now. I'm all
yeah.
messed
Now
Yep.
up.
you're in the lower corner instead of the top corner. Yeah.
Yeah. Wendy's first now.
Yeah. But all of my non-horror friends that don't read horror, they always ask me, what is the appeal of horror? Why do you like reading about these horrible things? So I wanted to ask all of you, Wendy, if you can go first, what's the appeal of horror to you? Why do you enjoy horror?
Sure. I think my answer to that's probably going to be a lot of other horror readers' answers, and it's to like help process the things that scare me, and to help me like in a very accessible and safe way touch the things that scare me, I guess. You can open up a book and read something scary, but it's not the same as actually walking down a dark path in the middle of the forest at night. And so you can kind of, what do they call it? By osmosis, get the experience. Yeah, so I don't like to be scared in real life. I just like to read it, experience it from the safety of my couch.
What about you, Laurel?
I think definitely there's that element of it. I think it's like, and it's something that I hadn't really thought about a whole lot until the last couple of years. But like, yeah, because I think that the question really arose a lot during the pandemic when people were like, why, would you want, everything's so depressing. Why are you going to pursue like going down that road? But it's a safe way to experience. And it's not the real life stuff that you're dealing with. It's things that are a whole lot more aesthetically interesting, I guess. And there's just elements of it. I read a really cool little like meme, like cartoon thing that was talking about why it's important for children to, like, within their comfort zones, if they're interested in it, like, watch horror, read horror, like, to an extent. And part of it had to do with, they were talking about like, look, it doesn't help a kid, like they know there's not a Tyrannosaurus outside their window, they know this, but they're afraid of something. And if all you do in response is come in and say, there's no Tyrannosauruses, turn off the light, go to bed, you haven't helped them. But if you give them something like, well, the Tyrannosaurus can't reach you because their arms are too short, or like, just like give them something that is something that they can do. Like, well, they can never come in if you do this particular dance. If you river dance across the room, then they're unable to get in. And it gives them power. And it helps them process those things. And that really struck me because I felt like, it does for me too, because there's certain types of horror that I'm not real into, and I think it's because it hits too close to home. It's something I can that instead of being an escape, it's more of a, oh, this is a subject I've really been trying not to think about, for however long.
I just read The Girl Next Door, or I read half of it.
Oh,
I couldn't finish it. It
you're
was just
brave.
too real. No, I put it
Yeah.
down. I couldn't. It's just not fun. I mean, it was so well written. I'll probably read something else that he's done, but Jack Ketchum. But it was based on a real life event, but it's just too real. And
Yeah.
I actually went online and I read like a synopsis so I could find out what happened. But I cheated on that one. I had to. That's not the kind of stuff I want to write or read. But he's a great writer.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, why I really love that there's so much breadth of genre in different, different ways to experiencing it, because I think it should be an inclusive, thing, that people should get to experience it on their terms. And like, I have to say, like, that, the part of horror, what I'm looking to invoke is more like that delicious thrill, like not
Yeah.
the existential dread necessarily, but more like the, mid-October, you step outside at dusk and you see all the Halloween decorations, and maybe you go to a haunted house that is perfectly safe, but you just get the aesthetics of it. And I feel like there's, I don't know, there's a feeling there that I like trying to recapture with it.
Yeah. Yeah. I like the fun part too. I kind of go off of a gut feeling, like if I watch a documentary or whatever. Sometimes being in a place will set it off. Like, I've been to a lot of places where something bad happened, and I don't know, it's kind of sick, but I went to Dealey Plaza where Kennedy was shot, and I got to, like, you know, see the window that Lee Harvey Oswald was. I got to see the lay of the land, and how far away the car was. I went to Ground Zero in like early 2002. Um, the buildings around were still scarred. There's a bunch of other places too. I just can't think right off the top of my head, but I can feel this like butterflies kind of thing. I was also watching a documentary about the Golden State Killer on HBO. Uh, I think it's I'll Be Gone in the Dark. And this guy was a serial rapist, and not a big fan of rape, and I don't like to write about it or anything like that, or get into it, I guess. But this guy, he just the things some people think about. Like, I was watching this thing, and I got like this chill because he was so creepy. He he would break into a couple's home and then put the husband on his stomach and take a pile of dishes and put it on his back and say, if you move, I'm going to kill you and your wife. And then he'd go take the woman away, you know? So what do you do? I mean, like, I'm watching that and I'm thinking that is like totally, totally sick, but so effective. Like, I could put myself in the guy's shoes, and then there were survivors of this guy, like real life survivors. Most of them were dead or divorced. Like, the couples never, only one couple made it, like they still made it together and they were so cute together. But the horror of that was so, I felt it. And when I feel something like that, I try to find a way to turn it into something, although I don't want to write about a serial rapist. You know what I mean? Like, I have to feel like butterflies. I need that inspiration, um, that I could turn it into a story.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of times it's sort of harnessing that feeling of fear, again, that you want to elicit, that you might have seen elsewhere, experienced elsewhere. Um, One thing I've been kind of experimenting with wanting to do lately is like, and it's so ambiguous, but there's certain songs that give me such like deep like sorrow or like horror with it, and I'm like, I want to write this story that gives the feeling that song gives to me when I listen to it.
Yeah, yeah, that's it too. Absolutely. Yeah, I agree with that. Like Chris Cornell, I was a big fan of his, or still am, and then he committed suicide. And then after he committed suicide, I start listening to the lyrics, and I thought they were all just like, grunge lyrics written for the money kind of a thing. And then I realized, oh my God, this guy was depressed. And there are so many songs in there that you could pick phrases out and know that he meant them. And it's
Yeah.
makes it takes it to another level. There's something that he felt that was just so dark. Um, you know, he, it's a sad thing, but it does inspire you in some way to, turn it into something beautiful or something that people will like, if possible.
Yeah, because I think part of the success, you know, there's a lot of ways to measure success. but I feel like one of the most meaningful ones to me is when a writer like genuinely connects, or a reader genuinely, they can be a writer too, but somebody who reads it and genuinely connects with something that I've written. They send me a message and say like, this was my experience and it was cathartic to see this on the page, or like I felt seen by this. Because I don't, like, none of my characters are me. Like, that's not like Laurel on the page, but all of them have part of me. All of them have, something that I've experienced, or they're working through something, like, whether I mean to or not. I'm like an accidental feminist in like everything that I do. I'll be like, I'm going to write a straightforward creature feature. No, I'm not. I just don't seem to be capable of that stuff.
You must have had a lot of that for Crossroads.
Yes, I did. Yeah. And that was not something I really thought like a whole lot about. I just wrote something that was, that I just kind of put myself in her shoes a lot, and, tried to put that out there. But yeah, speaking of things you try not to think about very much, that was definitely
touched a lot
something
of people. Yeah, that was
I shied away
Yeah.
from a lot. Thank you. I appreciate it. Well, what do
That
you,
was
so,
something Oh, no, go ahead.
sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying with Crossroads, I wanted to read it for so long, but I knew what the subject matter was, and my oldest son is learning how to drive, so I was like, nope, I gotta wait. I gotta be ready for this one because I know what it's about, and so I waited until I was in the right place to read it, and I'm glad I did. So,
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, that one I wouldn't want to read it around that time either.
Well, what do you,
Chris,
if you, oh, go,
Oh,
I'm going to
sorry.
stop. Sorry.
No, it's okay. Just Chris said, "There's no one way. There's no one style that works." Can you imagine the person that first, excuse me, was asked to give King feedback?
Right.
His style is very much his own, to me at least.
Yeah.
Very true.
Somebody
Probably
asked
easier.
too if I even Chad Lutsky, not a big fan of rape, Michael Clark. That's great.
Context matters, Chad.
Well, somebody asked if I read Peter Straub, or I don't know if they're asking me, but yeah, I did. I read Ghost Story back when I was a kid, when it came out. And I wanted it to be more ghosty, to be honest with you. And I am picky, and I've been criticized for being picky. So that's my answer on Peter Straub.
Have you read, because it's a collaboration with Stephen King, did you read Talisman or The Black House?
No.
Black House.
No. And I read Stephen King from, let's say, I know I read Firestarter. Let's walk backwards. I don't know what's before that. I think my first one was The Shining, and then The Stand. I read Night Shift. So those are probably my first three. And then I read The Tommyknockers and It. I think It was my last one because I thought it was too long, and I know It has like blown up, and it's everybody's favorite book. But that's the reason I stopped reading Stephen King. It was just, so long. I don't know. Like he goes and he goes and he goes. I'll just shut up now because I know I'm in the minority.
No, you're not.
Oh.
It made the movies were like, I liked the first movie. I liked how they split it into two and everything. But the second one was so long too. It was just okay.
I mean, and I think one of these things is my attention span has changed. I used to like glory in like the longer the better, in large part because I was a very fast reader. And I only knew like maybe 5 or 6 authors that I would enjoy. And I would try all kinds of stuff. But I think like you, I was like really picky with stuff. I was like, ugh, and so it was like, oh, thank God, a 5,000-page Stephen King novel. This will keep me busy for a full week, But it's like the more that I have going on, the more I'm like, I'm sorry, is that over 100 pages? I don't know when I can get to that.
I'm the same.
Sorry, go ahead.
I think that's why a lot of people are gravitating toward novellas these days, when in horror, and that it's just like, yeah, when I was younger, I went for the biggest doorstopper I could find, but now like if I can sit down and read something in 1 to 2 sittings, that's my preference.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're the TikTok generation.
I'm not the TikTok generation.
No, but we're in it. Like, though,
Oh yeah,
they're coming up. They're,
yeah.
the attention span is even shorter. I mean, I was in a gym class, and there was a young girl in the gym class, and she's like, "You guys like going to the movies? I hate the movies." I'm like, "What?" Like, they don't want to sit through a movie, or pay to go to
Has
the
she
movie.
tried popcorn? Because honestly, that's why I'm there.
I don't know.
The movie's a bonus.
Like, I don't know. Like, just that experience, that whole experience of going to the movies is fun, if it's a good movie. But I took it as generational. Like, wow. And then we can kind of see that theaters are dying a little bit, and it's all about streaming and shorter stories. Oh, this movie's 2 hours long. I don't know if I want to get into that tonight, or I don't know. When you're at home too, it gets broken up because of, I got to go to the bathroom, or I need something to eat, or you want another glass of wine, or whatever it is. And I don't know. It's just a different thing. Different. The short. I agree with the novella comment. Like, people want shorter stuff.
Yeah, I definitely still get into big ones. I do. I wish that I could break away from the Goodreads challenge. I think that is like a major problem for me because it's like, even, I'm an adult. I'm aware that I have all this other stuff going on, but it's like if I fall behind on that, it starts to bother me.
I don't
And
even
then I'm like,
challenge
I need a
myself.
shorter one. That's smart. I'm gonna just not. I would like to go back real quick because Chad Lutsky had the comment that Steve is the Bob Ross of YouTube, and I would like to agree with that. I second that. Very calming.
Well, thank you. It's very kind of you to say.
I haven't had time to read a lot of these. I saw Leslie. Hi, Leslie. And I saw Erica too. But we've been doing so much talking. I haven't had time to read a lot of these. And it's great that everybody showed up.
Yeah, that's very appreciated.
Erica said, "How spooky would it have been if Mike popped back on and the mannequin had moved?"
It's not a mannequin, just so you know. That's my wife. She's been gone for a while. No, just kidding.
I have a feeling she would have something to say.
Yeah. She's not home.
Well, I will say that I think going to the movies now is a different experience because of technology. So now you go and there's people on their phones and they're talking, or they have their screen so it's not as enjoyable as it used to be.
I am trying really hard to like live more in the moment and not be so distracted by that stuff, like, because I don't want to spend the whole movie being irritated. Because it's like I don't feel, I know these people like aren't doing it specifically to piss me off. But the last one I went to, there was this couple, there's like nobody in the theater, and they came and like sat in my row and then kept moving closer, and then they spent literally the entire movie talking. And I would have gotten it if it was about the movie. Like, I don't require full silence. You can be like, holy shit, I don't care. And like, did you see? I don't care about that. But like, give it back to me. Give it back. That's it. I was like, okay, then you need to go. Both of you need to just go. Like, go have an argument else.
They don't make any money, those theaters either. Like, they're like, my theater, it's an AMC, and it's like, it's got the reclining chairs and everything. And let's say 7-8 years ago, they put leather seats in, like, whoa, we're redoing it because we want people to come back to the movies. And like, okay, that's really nice. And then COVID and everything. And then I go into the theater and there's a mouse running around, it's like, yeah, they just don't have the people or I think Hollywood takes all the money and they don't get any of it.
Yeah.
We'll be lucky to have, it's going to become a niche thing, I think, is movies in the theaters. I mean, everybody's getting 50. I have a 55-inch TV. I got it last year for, $1,000 for 5 payments of $200. And most people can, finagle something like that if you're never going to leave your house and that's your entertainment. So if I have a 55 and other people have 75s, I mean, why leave and pay $50 for 3 people to go to the movies, and then you're going to own it in a month if you liked it,
But there's still, I will say that my most, and this is why too, like I was able to kind of, and actually it was a great movie. I went to go see The Invitation. which was super, super good. I highly recommend it. It was really, really good. I'm not even much of that genre. I'm going to try not to spoil it, but I think the first trailer spoiled the shit out of it. So I won't add to that. But I feel like for me, like, and that's why, like, I was mildly annoyed when they got to the whole, like, give it back, whatever. I was like, you guys are not 8. Like, you need to stop. But I was also like, they're experiencing it in their way. Like, cause that's the other thing. It's like, I'm 40. I'm not that generation. And, maybe they come here all the time and there's no one in there. And this time they come in and there's some 40-year-old lady over there looking irritable, with her air boot up on the other seat in front of her. So it's, part of it is just like experiencing it the way that you do, like, personally. And I know, like, for me, a big part of it, especially it was pre-pandemic and then during the pandemic when I felt a little bit safer, that's like the only way to get away. Is, I would take a day off work and watch my son in the morning and then go to the, if I could, I would go to a theater. And it was like, I'd be like one of only a couple people in there. It's like totally silent. I don't even care what I'm watching, but it's the solitude of it. And this is weird though, but it's like, it's the solitude, but I sort of like when there's a couple other people in there because you're experiencing, I don't know, there's something about the shared experience of a dark movie theater.
Oh yeah. I remember I saw, like, sometimes I couldn't find somebody to go to the movie and I went and saw Aliens alone, like, I was like, whoa, like it was the experience of that. And then another one I went to alone was Nightmare on Elm Street 3, the Dream Warriors, which was good too. And there was something about like buying that ticket alone and, being in the theater with other people you don't know and you don't have to go alone, obviously, but yeah, the movies have always been dear to me. And I saw Halloween in the theater originally. I saw Dawn of the Dead. Yeah, I'll just never, forget that. And it's too bad. I hope they don't go away.
I hope that don't either. I really love that they're re-releasing some of the older stuff in theaters now, which is cool because there's like some of that stuff that, of course, I can't ever get away to watch it. So all the way, like when they had Jaws come back out, I so wanted to see that, but getting it set up is just kind of.
I've seen that so many times, and yeah, and it was in 3D too, I think. So Jaws, not Jaws 3 in 3D, but Jaws in 3D. That would have been cool. I missed it.
What's your favorite horror movie, Wendy? What's your go-to horror movie?
Oh, well, ask me my favorite kid, I guess. My go-to. Okay. So I would have to break it down into genres, honestly. But like creature feature, slasher, whatnot. I typically don't. I like slashers, I suppose. My most favorite contemporary one is It Follows.
Yes.
I love that one. I think that's like my favorite kind of psychological creature feature, also social commentary, all kind of wrapped into one. That's like one of my favorite movies that's come out in the last, I think, probably 10 years. But I really also love the original Scream. Like I was a teenager when that came out. I begged my mom to go to movies to see it, and they wouldn't let me in to go see it by myself, so she had to go and watch it with me. And so that was one of the movies that really got me into horror film. Like I've already been watching Candyman and other stuff, but like as a teenager, that's the one that really resonated with me.
Definitely. It Follows a great score too.
Oh, amazing. Yeah.
That was very original too. That was different. That got you thinking. You were like, what's going to happen? That was good.
Yeah. Good jump scares, just good and original. All over it. Yeah.
Let me ask you something about that one too, because so when I watched it, I really felt like it was super effective in large part because of the way that it's passed, right? And I was very surprised after I'd watched it to read some of the stuff, and people were saying like, oh, it's social commentary, like, trying to make it seem like sex is evil and it's like a punishment. I was like, I didn't take it that way because there wasn't a judgment on having sex in general. It was more just that, like, to me, what was frightening was like, this is a thing that a large percentage of the population does. In particular, like, it's something that's very appealing when you're very young and, you live at home and you have to like finagle ways and all this kind of thing. I didn't take it as any sort of a criticism in that fashion, but I was
Mhm.
curious what y'all's take was on it.
Yeah, I didn't see it as a criticism on sex. I saw it more of a like a as far as being intimate with people, friendships, romantic, platonic, whatever. When you are that vulnerable with somebody, like it's romantic, but it's also terrifying, right? And that's like why romance and horror kind of go hand in hand, because when you're in those kind of relationships, you're trusting the person that you're with not to hurt you. And like and it follows, you don't know, but they are passively hurting you, and it comes back to haunt you. And so yeah, I didn't personally see it as a criticism on sex so much as a like, you just never know who you're going to trust, like who to trust, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like everybody has sex, but it's also a sin, and the movie's kind of like um, having sex with somebody and you have a venereal disease. It's like there's a moral question to it, kind of a thing. Like the girl tries to get rid of it that way or whatever. But I just think it put us all in the same boat. We could all relate to um, the choice you have to make when you have sex, I guess. But
Well, just I mean, to me, I feel like what makes a lot of those things so scary is like, something that it's like, whoa, I wouldn't necessarily have had a defense to this. It's like you can maybe look at certain things and say, well, I wouldn't get killed in this slasher because I wouldn't go to this deserted, whatever, or I wouldn't stay in the haunted house, so I'd be fine. But it's just like it's something. I guess it just felt like something that was so unknowable and so universal that
yeah.
I felt like that was what was effective about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Major points for originality. It was good.
Yeah.
I would say
That
my favorite of the last 10 years were Sinister,
Hmm.
Hereditary, and Mama.
was Mama the one with Jennifer Lawrence? Or
Chastain
no,
or with
Jessica Chastain.
Jessica
Yeah.
Chastain.
Jessica Chastain.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm thinking of wrong one then.
And it's a Guillermo del Toro produced. And the guy that directed, I forget his name. Yeah, it.
Yeah. I forget his
Anthony
name.
or Antonio or what's his name?
I'm blanking on his name, but yeah, it's the same director. Yeah.
Right.
I didn't even heard
well
that.
done. And then especially the scene where like Mama is coming to get a guy and it's in a dark room and he drops his camera and it's like 3 flash bulbs, 3 flashes, and you see her like across the room and then here and then in your face. It's like it was cool.
That's effective.
Yeah.
The stop motion stuff really still messes with me quite a bit.
And you can picture like not being able to see except when the flash goes off, and then
This looks awesome. How did I not know about
You haven't
this?
seen
Look at
Mama?
these stills. I hadn't even heard of it.
Oh, you'll like Mama. Yeah.
That's creepy looking. Oh, I love that.
Are you a fan of Mama, Wendy?
I think I'm remembering it. Is it with the two little girls that were and it was like a ghost mama?
Yeah.
I've seen that one. It's good.
Just behind the times.
So I watch so many horror movies. They all kind of like I have to like remember the names too.
They start to blend together sometimes.
Yeah.
Well, like I think you were thinking of Mother with Jennifer Lawrence.
Okay, yes, that's what I was thinking about.
Oh yeah, I didn't really like that one. It's not a horror
I didn't
movie.
want to see it, but and not because I think it'd be bad, but I'm like, no, I actually know all about the devaluation of mothers and all that kind of shit. I think I'm good.
Yeah. And it's got a weird scene where it's like, I don't know, like a camera follows her through a crowd, she's getting punched, and it's like fake and real. Like, I don't know. It's weird. Didn't really like that.
Very ambitious, though.
Yeah, he's a good director. He did Requiem for a Dream, right?
Mm-hmm. And then The Fountain. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, same director. Okay.
Darren
I wonder if,
Aronofsky, is that his name?
Aronofsky, yeah.
I wonder if Clint Mansell did the score for that, because he did it for both The Fountain and. So have you all seen The Fountain?
Yes, it's excellent.
Oh my god,
It's so good.
Oh,
It's like one of my favorites. Yeah, it's so good.
it's unbelievable. Like I like to just watch it every so often, just for like the aesthetics of it and the emotion and just the way that they captured all that. And don't know. I feel like it's something that like I don't want to say that it would necessarily help everybody, but I feel like if I was dealing with like impending grief or something, I would like to go back and watch it.
I have to see that again then. I need to write that down. I don't even know if I've seen that. So, touche.
Soundtrack is so good.
Oh God, it's
Oh, yeah.
that. Oh yeah, I wrote to that for like the longest time. Just
Oh, good. I have a Spotify thing. I'll add that to it.
yeah, really, really good, really good.
Do you listen to music when you write, Wendy? Do you put on different music for different genres?
If it has words, like lyrics, it's hard. It kind of like distracts me from my writing. But I try to find like ambient type, like forest cafe, twinkling wind chimes, like that sort of stuff. Like anything that would be like white noise, I'll usually listen to.
That's funny. My next book has wind chimes.
Were you listening to wind chimes when you wrote it?
I'm still writing it. I just started it actually, but now I might. Maybe there's a haunting wind chimes
Oh,
channel.
I'm sure there's a haunting wind chimes.
Yeah, I should do that.
I'm always curious this time of year. Do you all notice your sales go up for horror during this like fall, Halloween, October? Do you notice that there's more interest in that genre in the month of October, November?
I think there
I stopped
probably is
looking.
from people that read widely, or that people that don't typically read horror will pick it up this time of year for sure.
I don't know that I've been in it long enough to be able to make a determination like that, but it does occur to me it's like again where and it still honestly seriously blows me away that my books are in bookstores now. Like that's a very recent development. And it's really cool because a lot of them are doing their Halloween displays. And Trevor Henderson did just a magnificent cover for Below. So like I'm getting some face out treatment that I may not otherwise have. So I think that may this year have an effect on it. But I mean, it's still, it's just one of my favorite things about this time of year is these Halloween displays everywhere you go. Like I love to take my son to the independent bookstore here, and they always have these like tables full of like kids Halloween books, and go like scoop a bunch up for him, and then go upstairs and scoop a bunch for me, and then glare at the spot where my book should be and isn't, but then buy something anyway.
I feel the same way. Like I haven't been in it long enough to like, see a bump or whatever. And plus, it's been, I think my last book came out May of 2020. So, interest wanes, but that doesn't mean that it can't come back if your next book is good or your 3 books from now is good. So, I don't know what number. What was Bird Box for Josh Mellerman? Like, was that his first book? Was it his 10th book? Or
was it his first published one?
I don't know. But I think I've heard through the grapevine, and it may not be true, but that when that hit, everybody's like, "Ooh, I need to check him out," and then he, it kind of like the rising tide rose all of the boats.
Yes. Yeah. Sorry, I can't stop myself from like wanting to go look up that.
I'd like to know. I mean, it's kind of like a career maker, like you could, I mean, if you have 30 books or whatever he has, and then one of them hits, and then, you get a bunch of readers out of that. I mean,
It's saying Bird Box was his first one.
Was it?
Yeah.
And he has like over 30.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I don't think they're all in print though. I think that's the thing is he's got a ton of them that and that's such an interesting problem to have too, but it's true. Like you have to be concerned about like saturating the market to an extent. That was a question I asked not long ago, and Brian Keene ended up actually addressing it, and basically came up with the answer that 4 a year was the sweet spot. I'm like, I don't think I have to worry about exceeding that. No. It's not a chance.
There's no sugar on my horizon. There's nothing sweet about my pace.
And I was
Wendy, how long have you been? Oh, I'm sorry, Steve.
No, go ahead, Laura. Go ahead.
I was just curious how long you've been doing it, Wendy.
Well, I wrote my first story for Scribd, I believe, in 2019, and that was I started started out publishing. I self-published, I believe, in 2019, a collection of short stories that I've since unpublished, horror, like a horror anthology called Florida Gothic, and I've since unpublished that. It's not representative of the way that I write now. But so I started out writing horror short stories, and then I jumped to writing romance novellas in 2019, and I have a lot. I have a lot because the way that I write with script is very fast and furious, and so I've got a lot of romance out there, but not quite as much horror. Like I published my first horror novella last year.
So I came out in 2019 as well, and I have 3.
Same, pretty much. Whispers
Yeah,
came
you
out
were
at the
you were
end of
2018,
2018,
right?
so.
You were like
Yeah, like December of 2018.
Yeah.
So very, very late.
Hmm.
But yeah, the romance genre and industry interests me so much because of the loyalty of the readership, and I really get that. A long time ago, I used to read Harlequins, and I was like on some like book, subscription or whatever, and I get like a certain amount every month, and I would just roll through them, and it's like I know that some of them can be formulaic, but to an extent, it can be a very, very enjoyable formula. My biggest beef, I think, is like the bizarre necessity for all the women to be virgins regardless of age, and I'm like, look, I don't mean to be rude, but it seems like it's more likely there'd be like old dude virgins.
Yeah. And I think the thing that kind of turned me away from romance as a younger reader was that very old school romance mentality. But today's romance market is so different. It's so much more inclusive. You don't have to get married and have a baby at the end of every story. It's like so many different types of romances that it really appeals more to me now.
Huh. Do you have anybody that you recommend?
It depends on what you're looking for. If you're looking, like a lot of people like to read historical versus contemporary or rom-coms or dark romance, like there's such a wide variety. But like I like to read a lot of different indie authors for romance, because like with indie horror, like there's less boundaries. There's just like more possibilities of the way they can write and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, I'd have to get back to you on that one for a list.
I'll DM you later.
I just always like to ask the horror authors if they've ever experienced anything that's inspired their stories, whether it was paranormal, you had an explanation for it or not. Was there ever anything that you experienced that kind of inspired one of your stories? Not all at once.
Ladies
Mike,
first.
you want to go first?
Okay. No, I have not. But my story was written about a property that I used to live at. So the house, the barn, the hidden grove in the woods, and the pond and the field, it was all like a real place. So it was very easy to write about it. But as far as supernatural stuff, I have not.
I think I definitely have. It's my opinion that that's what it was. But I always like, the caveat that I can totally see reaching the afterlife and someone being like, wow, you're so full of shit. This was obviously earthly, whatever. But I feel like there is a feel to it to me for some time, for some things. Like you can definitely scare yourself.
Well, what happened? What happened?
Well, I mean, there's been a number of them, honestly. A lot of them are kind of benign. I'm Southern, so we tend to get visited by our family members shortly after they pass away. Definitely had a lot of that, which again was very benign, but also very just there. There's just, I know I'm not even going to try and deny it or talk myself out of it, but there was a house that we lived in when we moved to Tennessee. I was, I think, 17 or 18, and my sister was 3 years younger. And it was me and her and my mother living like on top of this mountain in Andersonville, Tennessee. It's like this bizarre house, like huge and really weirdly overrun with ladybugs. I don't understand which you would think like ladybugs are nice, not 8 billion of them. I don't understand.
Yeah.
And what my sister and I actually compared notes about it later. We weren't really talking at the time because we were teenagers and irritable. But there was something that used to come to me at night, and it wasn't every night. But the room that I selected for myself was on the third floor, and it had a little like alcove sort of thing attached to it. And I got a very bad feeling from that place. And I had originally was gonna store stuff in there. I was like, no, I'm not even gonna open that door. It's a weird tiny door. I don't understand it. I'm just gonna put stuff in front of it. But there were times that I would wake at night, and it was really weird. We were very isolated, and so I don't guess it was a street light, but it was kind of a spotlight that was out like in the, a little bit further away, but it shined in my window. And sometimes there would be like a shadow figure like standing over my bed, and I would know that it was there because it was blocking the light from the big spotlight outside. Like you could see it around it. And it was like a darkness that just was thicker than the shadow around it. And there was one night that it always was right between me and my lamp. So like to get to my light, I'd have had to like reach through it around it. And there was one night that I woke up and it was standing over me, and just like I was just too afraid to move, and just infinitesimally it kept leaning just closer and closer and closer, or further down, until finally I like just lost my shit and just like jumped up and ran around it, and went downstairs and spent the night on the couch. But it's one of those things, you're a teenager, and in the light of day, you don't necessarily want to tell anybody about it. And so I didn't really say anything. But later when my sister and I would talk, like she was like, okay, so I know this is going to sound crazy. Sometimes I would wake up and there would be this like dark feeling, like, fuck, oh God, It was real. It was bothering you too.
Yeah.
So I don't know what that, like, so this is odd though, because you want to figure, at least I do, that if you have some kind of weird presence, that there's an atmosphere to it, right? And that there's going to be some history to the place. Like somebody died there, somebody suffered there, something that leaves that behind, that there's that connection. It was like a 7-year-old house. Like it had one owner who was renting it to us, and he was a jackass, but he wasn't dead. And nobody died there. There was no history. There was no anything. And
Indian burial ground.
That's the old 80s answer to absolutely everything that happened. But I actually think I've come more around to the idea that I think there's definitely, I believe fully in ghosts. Absolutely believe in ghosts. But I also think that there are certain things that can be almost more of like a projection of, and not even necessarily evil, but like bad. Yes, sir. Are you coming? You gonna come? We're gonna have a visitor.
Hi, Tiny.
Hey, Tiny.
Take the headphones out so he can read. Come here.
Hi, Tiny.
Maple cookie.
That's awesome. Here, you want to say hi for a sec? Wow. These are my friends. This is Steve. This is Wendy, and that's Mike. You want to say hi?
Hi.
Hi.
You're gonna go
Look like
Steve?
mommy.
Yeah, he does. He's my mini me.
I have. My daddy has said they have to. Say, I don't know.
You don't know? Okay. All right, go get you some maple cookies.
Friend says this conversation's over.
You made him laugh, Wendy.
My son's here too, but he's 28. I don't think you want him on here.
You don't want him to come sit in your lap?
No. I don't think he wants to either.
What about you, Wendy? Have you had any weird experiences?
I'm kind of the opposite of Laurel in that I'm very science minded, and I always try to find a way to explain everything away with science so that I don't freak myself out in real life. But I have definitely had experiences. I think probably everybody has, where they seen something but I haven't incorporated that into my work so much as I do have my my story, They Come from the Water, was sort of inspired by in that story, it's two sisters that have to go and clean out their late grandparents' home. And my own parents just recently did that with her parents' home, my grandparents' home, and just kind of like the grief of unloading a family home and the things you discover and find. I think is something that a lot of people will probably have to experience in their lifetime. And it's like like just that was something that had inspired me from my real life that I had translated into a story.
We should have a ghost hunting team. It'd be perfect. You're the skeptic.
Yeah.
I'm the full believer. We'll be on AMC in no time.
No time.
I'm down for it.
Yeah. So I know everyone has a commitment, so don't want to keep you over our time. But Laura, I have to ask, how's the foot?
It's better. It's better. I did get downgraded to a brace, so I don't have to wear the boot of doom anymore. So that's perfect.
And Wendy, I want to give us a very special thanks because you're dealing with a lot there in Florida, and we know you're dealing with a ton of stuff. So
yeah, well, I'm really
you.
happy to be on and talking with you all and having the distraction from everything that's going on. So thank you.
Yeah,
Just
good
hope
luck.
everyone's
Best
safe.
of luck.
Yeah. And everyone go grab Wendy's new books. She's got her Halloween love story that came out today, and Roser Park is coming out tomorrow. And it's
thank you. Thanks, Laurel.
Yeah, everyone's links are in the description, so go pick up everybody's books on the panel. I just want to get a couple of comments in. Daniel says, Laurel kept mentioning 40, and I was like, that's weird. She doesn't look like she could be older than I am. Then I remember that I'm also 40.
Coincidentally, you know who else is 40? A celebrity? Take it. You won't guess. It's Britney Spears.
Oh, that makes sense, though. Yeah. We kind of came up together. I mean, obviously had very similar lives,
You're both on the Mickey Mouse Club.
Absolutely.
And you guys have your first watcher? Erica said she'd watch the ghost hunting.
All right, let's go. So I love ghost hunting. Like there's so many places I want to check out. So we'll just have to plot us a little map, like between you and me.
I'll meet you halfway.
All right, awesome. I'll let you get settled in Florida.
It's funny you guys mentioned that Angel from Voices from Oz and Liam just did a ghost hunting thing. So she did like a.
I saw that. Did she put that up yet? Is it available to watch?
Don't think so, but I think she's working on it. But yeah, Sweet. I just saw the short. So
awesome.
Yeah. So before we go, Wendy, can you tell everyone how to contact you? Where's your preferred platform?
Absolutely. Well, I'm on Twitter at Wendy_Darymple. I'm also on Instagram. I have a Facebook page, but I don't really take too much on it. I'm also on TikTok. I am enjoying TikTok. That's kind of fun. So you can find me there also under Wendy Darymple. There's not too many of me. So, and then my books are available on Amazon, Apple iBooks, Barnes & Noble, everywhere you like to purchase books.
Yeah. Be sure and support the launch. That's tomorrow, right? My days are messed up. Tomorrow, yes. So be sure and get it. My pre-order is in, so I'm ready for it.
Thank you, Steve.
And Laurel, where's the best place to find you?
Twitter. I have a very out-of-date website that I need to work on, but the contact form does work. But I'm on Twitter so much. So it's just at Hightower Laurel. And then I am on TikTok too. And I'm not very good at it. I not only hold books in an inverted fashion, but I hold them upside down.
You're on Talk Tick. Talk Tick.
Talk Tick. And Michael, when can we expect your book? You said April, right?
Yeah, April 2023. I don't know the exact date yet, but that's what I've been told, and I'm excited. I hope you will be too. And
I've been excited about that one.
I know. I appreciate that too, and I want to read Silent Key.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
From Flame Tree Press.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that'll be fall of next year.
Nice. And where's the best place to? Okay. Yeah, where's the best to find you, Michael?
MichaelClarkBooks.com, and I'm on Twitter as Mike Clark Books.
Cool. Again, everyone's links are down below in the description, so click the links and it'll take you to everyone's work. Be sure and support everybody. So thank you so much, everybody. I know all of you have different things going on. Wendy, thank you again for.
Yeah, thank you, Steve. It's nice to meet all of you.
You as well. This was a lot of fun. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you, Steve.
Thanks, everybody. Hope everyone has a great weekend. We'll see you soon.
Thanks. Y'all too.